Hey everyone, welcome back to week two. This is week two, part two lecture. I've already gone over one lecture already about the different modes of writing. If you haven't watched that one yet, I would suggest going ahead and watching it. Let's see. All right, so I can't get into, for whatever reason, I can't get into Blackboard right now. There's some sort of thing happening where it's saying that it's down. So I'm not going to show you our page right now currently, but by the time that you watch this, I hope that you can get into Blackboard. But that's all right. Okay. Today we are going to continue our conversation that we started on my previous lecture, which I posted on Friday. And so some of you might have ignored that, and you're just now going to be watching lecture one and lecture two right now. So the first essay, I'm sorry, the first lecture was on modes of writing. And so we talked about narrative example, definition examples, and exemplification, okay? Writing with examples. So now we're gonna talk about theme, audience, and tone. And this will relate to this week's assignment that you will be completing, all right? You'll have to talk about theme, audience, tone in the homework. So let's get started. All right, theme, audience, tone. Here we go. So understanding theme. Theme is the universal message that a literary text conveys. It is what we take from a story and apply it to ourselves. It's like every single film, every single book, TV show, these are all just just like allegories. They're stories that teach a lesson. And it might be a positive theme, might be a negative theme, but it's something that we can pull from whatever we're viewing, whatever media that we're reading or taking in, and apply it to our own lives. So that's what it means by universal, okay? So the theme of a story wouldn't be this character learned this. Instead, it would be, it's not about that character, it's about us. What does the audience learn about the world, about life, about relationships? And again, it can be positive or negative. It doesn't have to be a moral. It's different from a summary, which tells the main events of a text. And it isn't a word or a topic. People often want to say things like, oh, the theme of this film is love or war. But that's actually not. No English, no critical analyst, no real person who analyzes literature would say the theme is one word. But those are sometimes what are called thematic topics. A film can make two different thematic topics statements. I'm sorry, they can make two different themes from the same thematic topic. So the topic could be war, but like the story itself, the theme talks about how war is destructive on the individual's soul. But then also a theme of the same story can be about how how war can cause people to find their inner strength. So we can have two different themes from the same topic of war from the same book or film or series. Okay. So if we think about Just Walk On By Brent Staples, all right, the theme of that is how Black men are often falsely assumed to be violent predators, which ironically places themselves in danger. This is a theme that we can see in so many areas in our society. The theme does not include Brent Staples. The theme is more universal for just referring to Black men. Black men are often falsely assumed to be violent predators, which ironically places themselves in danger. Because when you think something is a predator, then you're going to react to it more aggressively. Okay, so that's theme. All right, this sort of like the thing to learn. All right, and it can be positive or negative, a good or bad. All right, it's just a statement. Audience, though, is understanding the intended audience of a piece of writing determines many factors on how something is written. Understanding audience is about understanding who this is for. We communicate differently for different people. I would communicate differently to my children than I do to my wife. If I communicate to my wife and my children the same way, then either I'm being patronizing to my wife or I'm speaking way over the heads of my children. Both those situations would not end up well. All right, they would both be bad. So you gotta think about who's your audience and then figure out what's the best way to communicate to your audience. Some pieces are written for audiences that already believe or relate to the writer or topic. Some pieces are written for skeptical audiences, and some pieces are for a general audience. So, for example, media, Fox News, they write their articles for people who already identify as conservatives. Okay, they write to a group of people who are already like yes, yes, yes. They are not trying to convert Democrats to their beliefs. Okay, they're insulting Democrats. But then we have Newsweek. Newsweek, the writers are published write about different political topics and of different parties, offering criticism and praises for both sides. Therefore, the audience is a rather moderate, broad group of readers. Now, like I like to read different sources because I like to see what different sides think. Okay, how they believe. But Newsweek tries to be pretty objective for an objective audience, a moderate audience. And then there's like Rolling Stone. They print very damning articles criticizing conservative Republicans. They're not trying to convert Republicans. They understand their audience. Their audience is pretty liberal Democrats, and they want to read about how Republicans are conservatives are problematic. Fox News is written for conservatives, and they're trying to, and people read Fox News to understand how the Democrats and liberals are messing up the country. And then people read Newsweek to kind of get a balanced approach to both sides. Okay, which one is more trustworthy? All right. So, audience matters. Audience determines the tone and the style in which things are written. Tone. Tone is the author's own attitude toward the subject. Often an author's tone is described by adjectives such as cynical or depressed, sympathetic, intense, sarcastic, positive, outraged, excited, ironic. Okay, these are all just different ways to describe an author in the way that he or she writes. Tone is not an action, it's an attitude. Okay, the tone can be respectful or the tone can be sarcastic. The tone can be patronizing. The tone can be empathetic. And sometimes an author's intention of tone is not how it's received. Okay, so tone is not explained or expressed directly. It's interpreted. A reader must read between the lines to feel the author's attitude and identify the tone. Tone impacts the mood, which is the emotion the author wanted the readers to feel while reading about the subject. Tone is inspired by the audience that the piece is intended for. So when an author is writing, they think about their audience, who are they trying to reach, and then what tone are they going to use? Oftentimes, think about the audience that you want to write towards is the audience is how it determines how you're going to say it. Okay, and sometimes people's attitude, I mean their tone, or an author's sometimes an author's audience is just themselves. Like they're not writing for anybody else other than themselves. They're writing for themselves to feel like I'm being authentic, I'm being real, I'm being this. So like a writer can be writing to a mirror. This is the mirror, and what would I like? Oh yeah, I like that. Oh, I find that funny. Yes, this reveals me. Yes, okay. So the audience is people who either want to know what they really think, they want to know this person authentically, Okay, they're curious about this person's voice, all right, and who they are as people. So sometimes tone is a sometimes the tone is I don't care what people think tone. All right, it's a total just self-absorption, which isn't a bad thing either. I think a lot of people like people used to back in the day with Howard Stern, when Howard Stern first came on, and he was just on the radio. Uh, more people listened to him who didn't like him or agree with him because they just want to hear what he was saying because they were just shocked. That's why he was called a shock jock. They were just shocked by his tone, like, oh my God, how can he be so blatant in what he's saying? And so people would eat it up, even though they don't actually like him. Okay, so we're gonna look at this. We're gonna look at these two pieces, one from the writer of Lone Survivor and one from the writer of American Sniper. We're gonna look at the differences in tone. Both of these are war memoirs set during the same conflict with the same opponent. But notice how each former soldier discusses the way they perceive their combatants. Okay, so this is Marcus Luttrell. He's the writer of Lone Survivor. We're going to read an excerpt from him. That's Mark Wahlberg, who played him in the movie. And then this is Chris Kyle, who was the writer of American Sniper. Okay, who was portrayed later by Bradley Cooper. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this up so we can take a look at it. All right. So we have American Sniper by Chris Kyle. And then we have Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell. All right. Both these are war memoirs during the same conflict with the same opponent. But notice how each former soldier discusses the way they perceive their combatants. Okay. All right. We're going to read first Luttrell's. Here we go. I ought to mention the Pashtuns, the world's oldest living tribal group. There are about 42 million of them. 28 million live in Pakistan, and 12.5 million of them live in Afghanistan. That's 42% of the entire population. There are about 88,000 living in Britain and 44,000 in the USA. In Afghanistan, they live primarily in the mountains of the Northeast, and they also have heavily populated areas in the East and South. They are a proud people who adhere to Islam and live by a strict code of honor and culture, observing rules and laws known as Pashtunwali, which has kept them straight for 2,000 years. They are also the quintessential supporters of the Taliban. Their warriors form the backbone of the Taliban forces, and their families grant those forces shelter in high mountain villages, protecting them and providing refuge in places that would appear almost inaccessible to the Western eye. That, by the way, does not include U.S. Navy SEALs who do have Western eyes, but who don't do inaccessible. We can get in anywhere. It's easy to see why the Pashtuns and the Taliban get along just fine. The Pashtuns were the tribe who refused to buckle under to the army of the Soviet Union. They just kept fighting. In the 19th century, they fought the British to the verge of surrender and then drove them back into Pakistan. 300 years before that, they wiped out the army of Akbar the Great, the most fearsome of India's Mughal rulers. Those Pashtuns are proud of their stern military heritage, and it's worth remembering that in all of the centuries of bitter, savage warfare in Balochistan, during which time they were never subdued, half the population was always Pashtun. The concept of tribal heritage is very rigid. It involves bloodlines, amazing lineages that stretch back through the centuries, generation after generation. You can't join a tribe in the way you can become an American citizen. Tribes don't hand out green cards or passports. You either are or you aren't. Language, traditions, customs, and culture play a part. But I repeat, you can't join the Pashtuns. And that gives them all a steel rod of dignity and self-esteem. Their villages may not be straightforward military strongholds as the Taliban desire, but the Pashtuns are not easily intimidated. Okay, so if you read this, as we just did, there's a lot of positive discussion here of the Pashtuns. Okay, they are a proud people who adhere to Islam's live by strict honor, code of honor and culture. Okay, observing rules and laws, just kept them straight for 2,000 years. Okay. So these are all positives in the sense of like, in many Americans' eyes, the idea of law and order is positive. Being proud, a proud American is positive. Having honor and, American culture and being straight. All right. The straight and narrow. I don't think this is subliminally about being straight sexually, but as in on the straight and narrow line, living, living right. Um, they're warriors for, okay, we have warriors, America is they really pride, this idea of being a warrior. Um, okay, let's see. They refused to buckle under the army of the Soviet Union. I mean, that's pretty pro. America is all about not submitting itself to the Soviets. We had a long Cold War with them where we deemed the Soviets as evil people, and so yeah, they refused them. They fought back against the British and drove them back. I mean, that is reminiscent of our own American Revolution. All right. Um, the Pashtuns are proud of their heritage, and it's worth remembering. Okay, it's worth remembering that they were never subdued. This guy is writing as a fellow warrior, where he is honoring the fact that they are proud fighters, and to me, he is showing respect. Um, I mean, tribes don't hand out green cards or passports. You either are or you aren't. I mean, to me, this seems like he is saying this is a good thing. You can't join a tribe in the way you can become an American citizen. Tribes don't hand out, okay? Because at no point is he mentioning anything negative about this. That they're, if someone didn't agree with this, they would be, oh, they're closed-minded. They are shut off. They are separatists. But instead, he's like, look, you're born that way. You can't join, okay? And he even says it gives them a steel rod of dignity and self-esteem. I think there's a lot of Americans who feel that way, whether you agree with that or not. I mean, I'm a person who I do believe in this idea of it's okay to give out green cards and passports and that anyone can become an American citizen. But there's a lot of Americans who believe in this, like, I was born here first. I get my self-esteem and my dignity from being an American, and people resent immigration and new citizenship. So while, like, I don't know if Marcus Luttrell, whatever he thinks about immigration, whatever, you can tell though that in reference to the Pashtuns, who are his enemy, okay, he fights the Pashtuns. I mean, he is in their country and he's fighting them. Okay. He also spends this whole chunk right here writing them up and showing them respect. They're a proud people, honor, culture. They follow rules and laws, straight warriors, almost like as if like they're relatable. That he highlights all the things about them that a lot of proud Americans, a lot of people who, call themselves American patriots, also believe in strong military, following the rules and laws, being a proud people on the straight and narrow, warrior, refusing the Russians, remembering that we fought against the British, proud people, and that, like, you know you're born here, you're born on the greatest country on earth. Woo! Okay, and that being an American is your rod of dignity and self-esteem. He really highlights those same types of attributes here with the Pashtuns. Okay. So even though he's talking about his warrior, he is pulling out positive attributes from them or about them. Okay. Things that he feels to be positive attributes about them. All right. Then we have American Sniper by Chris Kyle. And he is in a common war as Luttrell is, but knows how he's different. Savage, despicable, evil. That's what we were fighting in Iraq. That's why a lot of people, myself included, called the enemy savages. There really was no other way to describe what we encountered there. People ask me all the time, "How many people have you killed?" My standard response is, "Does the answer make me less or more of a man?" The number is not important to me. I only wish I had killed more. Not for bragging rights, but because I believe the world is a better place without savages out there taking American lives. Everyone I shot in Iraq was trying to harm Americans or Iraqis loyal to the new government. I had a job to do as a SEAL. I killed the enemy, an enemy I saw day in and day out plotting to kill my fellow Americans. I'm haunted by the enemy's successes. There are few, but even a single American life is one too many lost. People say you have to distance yourself from your enemy to kill him. That's true. In Iraq, the insurgents made it really easy. The fanatics that we fought valued nothing but their twisted interpretation of religion. And half the time, they just claimed they valued their religion. Most didn't even pray. Quite a number were drugged up so they could fight us. Many of the insurgents were cowards. They routinely used drugs to stoke their courage. Without them alone, they were nothing. When it came to sniping people, you cannot be afraid to take your shot. When you see someone with an IED or a rifle maneuvering toward your men, you have clear reason to fire. The fact that an Iraqi had a gun would not necessarily mean he could be shot. The ROEs were specific, and in most cases, the danger was obvious, but there were times when it wasn't exactly clear, when a person almost surely was an insurgent, probably was doing evil. But there was still some doubt because of the circumstances of this or the surroundings. The way he moved, for example, wasn't toward an area where troops were. A lot of times, the guy seemed to be acting macho for friends, completely unaware that I was watching him, or that there were American troops nearby. Those shots I didn't take. You couldn't. You had to worry about your own ass. Make it an unjustified shot, and you could be charged with murder. I often would sit there and think, I know this motherfucker is bad. I saw him doing such and such down the street, and the other day, but here he's not doing anything. And if I shoot him, I won't be able to justify it for the lawyers. I'll fry. Like I said, there is paperwork for everything. Every confirmed kill had documentation, supporting evidence, and a witness. So I wouldn't shoot. Okay. All right. So this piece by Chris Kyle, very different. Okay. He is like, his enemy is enemy. They're savage, evil, killed more. All right. I was haunted by the enemy's successes. Enemy fanatics, twisted interpretation, cowards. They were nothing. Okay. Marcus goes on to talk about how he doesn't blame the people in their country trying to protect their country because America, what they were seeing was that a foreigner coming to their land with a gun trying to kill them. Chris, though, is like, no, man, they're evil. We're good. There's no black, there's no gray. It's all black and white. All right. So you can tell, these pieces are both about very similar things. They're both SEALs, Navy SEALs. They're both fighting in post 9/11 Middle East, but their tones and attitudes towards their enemy very different. Okay, very different. So even though they're both they share so many similarities, their tone is very different. Okay, and maybe their audience or their intention of their audience is important. Maybe this guy is trying to talk about, he wants to change the audience. He wants to reach out to people who had a very negative outlook on the military. Maybe he wants to change people's outlooks that the military and the soldiers are just trigger happy and they just want to or that they're colonizers or that they want to go in and take over. And he's like, no. He's like, that's, I don't disrespect these people. I'm fighting for these reasons and blah, blah, blah. I respect people. And maybe Chris Kyle is writing for himself. He's writing for, I don't care. He's writing for people who also believe that people in the Middle East, that his enemies were actual evil, awful, terrible people. So, it fits different groups. It has different tones to it. It will have different reactions. Okay. All right. So then here, homework. Okay, your homework. So you're gonna read chapter 2 of your textbook, Invention. And if you can't get access to the book, I don't know why. Some people are saying they have problems with it. If I can get back online, I'll try to show you the steps again. But if not, then just read To Keep It Holy from Educated by Tara Westover. It's a PDF. It's not in your textbook. It's a PDF. It's in the week 2 folder. Read the short story, the chapter Go Hitler from Born a Crime by Noah Trevor. Again, it's a PDF in the week 2 folder. Okay. And then you're going to complete the tone analysis assignment and the memoir form, which I'll show you right now. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if I can get in. Okay, so I'm still having trouble getting into Blackboard. I have contact technical support. So instead, I'm just going to show you the assignments here. Let's see. All right, here's you will see this in the Dropbox in the week 2 folder, tone analysis assignment, okay? Before completing this assignment, you must have done the following. View the portion of the week 2 lecture that addresses tone and audience, which is what we're doing right now. Okay, read To Keep It Holy and Go Hitler, which again they're PDFs. They're PDFs on posted in the week 2 folder. Okay, I was going to show you the Go Hitler one is 14 pages, so give yourself enough time to read that. Okay, I don't know why this is looking. It's not blank on yours. Anyways, my computer. So read Go Hitler, read To Keep It Holy. Give yourself some time to read those, all right? And then you will complete this assignment. On a correctly formatted MLA document, you're going to write 3 paragraphs discussing both readings. Each paragraph needs to be organized in the manner I taught in week 1. Claim, support, analysis. Paragraph 1. Come up with a common theme on education that both selections share, but discuss how their shared theme is directed at different audiences. So Educated and Born a Crime both have a similar, you can come up with the same idea about something dealing with education, okay? But like, I'll go and tell you, Tara's piece is more serious and Noah's piece is more comedic. But even though she takes a serious tone and he takes a comedic tone, they're still really conveying the same message, okay? But maybe for different audiences. So you'll talk about that. And you talk about how they both have the same theme, all right, but at different audiences. Paragraph 2, contrast the differences of tone in the 2 pieces. How does the tone of each story support the theme of the stories? And I kind of just said that. Tara's tone is more serious. Noah's is more silly. But why? Okay, even though they have different tones, you know, how do their tones speak or support the themes of the stories? Paragraph 3, which of these selections is more of a narrative? And which of these selections is more of an exemplary essay? Just do that all in one paragraph. While this piece is a narrative, this person's piece is exemplary. The narrative aspect is obvious because blah, 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 blah. While this one serves more as exemplary overall because blah, 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 blah. All right. All right. 2, if you write this as a Google Doc, download it as a PDF to upload to the Dropbox. 3, I'll be grading you on proper MLA formatting, correct analysis of the essays, and that your body paragraphs follow the structure that I taught in the lecture. All right. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Email me. I'll help you out. Okay. And now the final thing that I need to show you is the Google form. In the week 2 folder, there is a Google form for you to fill out, okay? And it says fall 2024 memoir form. It says this, all right? Oh, 7 people have already filled it out. Awesome. What is your first and last name? What is the name of the memoir you're reading? Who is the author of the book? Explain who this person is and why you want to read this book. What year was the book written? Fill that out. And that's a grade. It's an easy grade. Okay. All right. That should be everything. Sorry that I couldn't log into to Blackboard to actually show you where everything is, but it's all in week 2. So go to week 2 and all that stuff is there. All right. Hopefully I can post this as well. I should be able to email it to you regardless. All right. I will get it out to you, this lecture link, so you can watch it. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Y'all have a great